Well, hey there, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations, and today we're going to be working on this. Now, this one is going to be a little bit different because it's a bit of an older style. A lot of times these I would do a lot of kind of an older world finish and do a lot of distressing and aging, and we're not doing that. I picked this up from the thrift store for $15, less 30% because it was Senior's Day. So what's that? That's $4.50 off, so almost just 10 bucks. And it's in good shape. It was kind of wobbly, but that's because these are screw-in legs, and they were, you know, one or two of them were loose, and now it's nice and stable. I, however, have a bedroom that my youngest son has moved out of the house. I am now childless in the home. I'm not childless, period. All three of my kids are doing well. But empty nester, I guess, is what it's called. So rather than turning that spare room, which is our only spare room in the house, it's a 3-bedroom, but one bedroom has been for the past 13 years my office and still is my office. So what we wanted was to create a place that we could have guests stay over if they needed to. So we had a place with a bed in it, but that more it would be a little bit of a lounge. It would be a little bit more of, really for me, it's more like a reading nook. It's just a quiet place to be able to go and sit and relax and read or chill. So I'm looking at, we've bought a little love seat pull out. So we've got the love seat in there, and ultimately I'll get 2 little chairs and a little table in between them. I don't have the chairs, but I have the table. And I have a little small dresser in there. And I'm gonna try and drop a pic in right now so you could see. That's what we're kind of matching, is that little dresser, which was painted by Dionne Woods of the Turquoise Iris. I took a class from her, oh my gosh, a lot of years ago. So maybe 6, 8, I don't know. She's down in Oklahoma, so I drove from here to Oklahoma, and I'm saying I drove, my husband drove me with the idea that it became a little road trip, and as long as we drove home through Kansas and he could get some barbecue, he was cool. So lovely. And we happened to have a van at the time, so we drove down in the van, which meant that as I was taking this painting class, Dionne kind of does random draws for prizes, and I happened to win the dresser that she was painting. So luckily I had the van and we could just pop it in. And the only thing that we didn't do was I did not have her wax it because it was really hot and I didn't want it to melt being cooped up in the van for a bunch of days. So I waxed it when we got home, but it has literally been sitting in my hallway under a blanket for all these years. So it is now had the blanket removed. It is now in a room in all of its glory, and we're going to paint this one up similarly. Now, I have already tried to get this drawer out, and I mean, I've done all my little tricks to try and find the release mechanism to get it out, and I cannot. So it's going to get painted in place. And I do that often anyway, so it's not a hard. I have already washed this off, meaning I have used some TSP-based solution. I don't like TSP itself as a chemical, so Fusion has a more natural TSP alternative. Used that, rinsed it off with water afterward, and I have let it dry, obviously. Okay, I'm gonna futz with that after because I just want to get some color on here. Now, this has some faux little leather strips on it. This was made in China, so before anybody freaks out that they think I'm really ruining an absolutely amazing piece. It's not that amazing. It looks good. It looks like it's in good shape and it's nice and solid, but it was made in China. So we're starting with a base of blue iris. So we've got lots of color that's going on here because I also have off to the side Old 57, which is a turquoise, a light turquoise, and I have some cowgirl coral as well that's going on to this. So we're going to have fun with a little bit of color on this piece. But the first step, of course, is to get a nice solid base coat on it so that we can then add to it. DIY is a clay-based paint, so it is great at being able to go over furniture as is. It sticks to just about anything. If you have a super slick surface, then of course do a scuff sanding, but I'm pretty comfortable with this piece as is, plus it's going to me. So if I do anything that I think wrecked it, I get to fix it up. It's not a problem. I don't have to worry about a client being rough with it. But we're starting with this beautiful, beautiful blue iris color. And I love the fact that I can show you something that has some color and be able to do something a little bit more funky with this. Wait and see what we're going to be doing. First step, base coat. Okay, and getting this knob off. This is our little table so far. I've got 2 coats of the blue iris on there. Light first coat, a little bit heavier second coat, great coverage. Now we're going to add the accent colors that she had on her piece. And to do this, we're going to use some little palette knives. So I'm going to take a little bit of Old 57. So I have on my plate here, I have Old 57 and Cowgirl Coral. And we are just going to scrape this on. So we're not looking to have it everywhere. And we just want to have hints of it as a color. My Old 57 is very wiry, because it had started to thicken up and I've added some water to it. But we're just looking to use our tool and just kind of wipe it off to be able to add a little bit of color. And we're going to do exactly the same. I've got a different shaped palette knife here, but we're going to do the same thing with some of our Cowgirl Coral. Now that might have been a little more than I wanted, but that'll be okay. Because when that dries, I can take my same palette knife, dipped in my blue iris, and I could go over that color. So if I get a little bit too much of something somewhere, then I'm okay. And I'm just going to add some of these colors. Just in little bits and pieces, here and there. We're just kind of going for it. And it has this very kind of eclectic feel. I am going to be adding some of the golden ticket, in which case I'm going to take all the pieces of the hardware here, and I am going to spray paint them in a very Rust-Oleum champagne gold, which is a very soft gold, because the golden ticket is not going to be particularly harsh. But here I'm taking both colors onto my palette knife, so I get kind of both happening simultaneously here. And we're just kind of scraping away, which is very fun. It gives a very organic look, and it is very hard to you know, if you struggle with getting organic because you can't do something loose, there's no way that you can really control this perfectly. So it's a great method when you're trying to get something that is kind of loose. And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do this all over the whole piece. And then we'll come back because then we'll add a little gold. Now that I've got these colors on, I want to add a little bit of Golden Ticket by DIY. So this is a liquid patina and it is very flexible, meaning it's water-based. You could paint it over the entire surface. You could stencil with it. You can, you know, use it as an accent. You could paint it on and spritz it with water before it's dry. We're just going to kind of add a little bit of it here and there. And so I'm taking my brayer and I'm taking some plastic wrap and I am rolling my plastic wrap over my brayer. 2 reasons. One, it protects my brayer because once this has got a sealer built in, so once it gets all over my brayer, it's going to be hard to clean off unless I do it immediately, which I'm not known for. So it helps with that. Oh, and it's not sticking. I should have taped it down, I think. So this is more on there than I wanted. And it'll be okay if I roll it this way. Let me just get a little bit off. And I'm just going to kind of roll it in sections. Everything is a little patchy. Now this is a little bit more than on her dresser, but this is where this dresser becomes mine. This little chest. And we're just going to put a little bit of this on. Now I'm still going to be able to do a little bit of, I mean, all of this has to get sealed afterward anyway. There's not enough gold. It's not sealing the whole piece, but it is adding a little bit onto here just in spots, which is all I want. And then we let it dry thoroughly and then I can seal it. You could seal it with a liquid top coat. I'm going to use some wax on this, but I'm just going to go and get a little bit of this in the places that I want. I do have a little scrunched up piece that, you know, if I can't get into certain places that I want, like down into those little crevices right there, then I can just take my scrunched up piece and I can add it in. Now that this is dry, I'm going to take 320 grit sandpaper, so very fine sandpaper, and I'm going to give it a light sanding. I'm going to be able to take it back a bit to the wood if I want to, but what I'm doing is smoothing it all out. It feels a little rough, and I'll be able to use a sandpaper to soften some spots if I want to that I think maybe it was a little overzealous with some of my painting. So I don't need to do more than just that to be able to smooth it. Anything more than that is if I want to start removing some of that paint, softening some of the colors a little bit. So I'm going to do all that, and then I'm going to wipe it all down with a dry rag to be able to get the dust off it before we look at sealing. One of the things to remember about DIY paint is that it dries lighter. So this went on a nice dark iris color, and as soon as you use your top coat, whether it's polyacrylic or as I'm using clear wax right now, it's going to bring it back to that darker color, which changes the look entirely. So I've chosen wax because this is for me and I love the finish, and this isn't going to be a table that gets tons and tons of use. As I said, it's going to be in a spare room, and it's mostly, you know, if and when we have guests that are staying over, and mostly as a little kind of reading nook more than anything else. So I'm going to get my wax applied. I have a clean rag to be able to wipe it back. This is my dusty rag. I don't want to wipe it back with that because then I'm just going to be adding that dust back into my wet wax. And then once it's dry, I'll leave it for a day or two. When it's dry, I can buff it as much as I want, or as little as I want. It really depends upon the finish that you're after more than anything else. But I love these pops of color. This is a lovely little soft, kind of a little piece. So, you know, it's not like it's super bold, but it's going to go against a wall where the dresser isn't. So it brings that pop of color that the dresser gives back into the room. So I'm just going to carry on, get the rest of my wax on, wipe it all back, leave it alone. It's Saturday today. Probably I won't be back here till Monday. And then I'll be able to get the hardware on and show you the finished piece. Here's our finished little side table. Now, this is just kind of done in a fun finish. Hopefully you saw how you can use things like plastic wrap to create texture, or you can use palette knives to be able to scrape paint on and be able to create random patterning and things. This is kind of fun, kind of funky. It really goes with the style and the techniques used on the dresser that this is going to be paired with. It's going to be on opposite walls. You get that same pop of color in the room. It's not what everything else is necessarily going to be, but it ties it all and brings it all together. This will be nestled between two chairs, and you know, that are a little bit more in the gray tones. So it'll all go. It'll all work together. But again, I hope that you saw how you can get some different looks, some different techniques, some different textures using just some tools rather than a paintbrush in order to be able to apply the paint. Don't be afraid to experiment. You don't like it? Take it off, paint over it, whatever you need to do. It's just paint. And that's fun. That's part of the fun part of using this medium, is to play and to experiment with it. I hope you picked up a couple of tips along the way. Let me know what you think. You saw the picture of the dresser at the beginning. How do you think that they match up? Looking forward to seeing your comments, and definitely looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.